All right. So I think we have a couple of newcomers on the call today. So uh, let's open the floor for their introductions. So if you are new on this call, we have this tradition where newcomers get to introduce themselves to the community and get introduced to the community. So if this is your first time on this particular call, please introduce yourself so that we can get to know you. Uh, Suyash, did you get a chance to introduce yourself?
No, actually, no.
Would you like to introduce yourself now?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Yash. I'm from India. I'm currently in my first year of computer science, and yeah, that's it. I came across the project on LFX, and I've applied as a mentee, and I'm looking to complete some of my PRs before I can like actually go through with my application.
That sounds good, Suyash. That sounds really good. Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
Nice to have you here. Uh, we also have Deepyan Mukherjee on the call. Deepyan, this is your first time, right?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Great, great. So, hey everyone, I am Dipayan Mukherjee, a junior from India, and I'm pretty new to the project. And I come from a web dev background, so these things are pretty new to me, the cloud native ecosystem. But I'm willing to contribute to the project because I kind of find it pretty appealing to me. So, yeah, looking forward to it. And looking forward to meet you all, get to know you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepyan. Welcome to the community. And who else? I guess that was all the newcomers. So welcome again to the community, and let's get started with today's meeting. So welcome everyone to the Layer5 community meeting. Today is the 19th of November, and like every other meeting in the Layer5 community, this meeting is also recorded and the video will be published on YouTube. So if you want your 2 seconds of fame on the internet, this is your time. And we have a couple of announcements today. So the first one is that Piyush, who is on the call this time. So Piyush has been nominated as has been accepted as the Meshery maintainer for Meshery CLI. So we had the nomination last week, and if you haven't seen the Slack thread, it's in the announcements channel, and there has been an email thread as well. So Piyush, everyone has really good words about you. So congratulations, and would you like to add something to it?
Hi, this is Piyush, and I would like to say thanks to the environment that is present in the community because that's the thing that makes me stick here and contribute to the project. Well, I am glad that I'm a maintainer of the CLI, but I would like some maintainership over some other components. So let's start going there. Yeah, that's it.
Sounds awesome, Piyush. So I guess like most of you are familiar with the Piyush's work. So one of his most impactful work here was uh, taking the test coverage from 0 to 33%, or like up almost close to 40% now in Meshery CTL. So that has been really impactful, and you can see him working around all the other components as well. And yes, congratulations, Piyush. And
By the way, sorry to interrupt. A spoiler alert, I have been already maintaining a lot of components secretly. So this is kind of an official thing, by the way, right now.
nice. And we also have another announcement. Abhishek Kumar, who has been contributing to the community for a really long time, has accepted his role at Layer5 as a software engineer, and he'll be joining us next year. So congratulations to Abhishek again, and welcome Abhishek to Layer5. All right. So moving on to the topics for today. First up, we have the Meshery and SMP at KubeCon China. Lee, would you like to talk about it?
Yeah. So so Meshery. So by the way, congrats Piyush for one. And I missed the second thing of what Piyush had. So congrats Piyush now that his headphones are back in. I missed the second part of what Piyush had said, but I think it had something to do with the fact that Piyush has been contributing in a few different areas, and creating a number of things beyond the CLI. And so, yeah, fantastic, which is fantastic. Yeah, if you haven't tried Meshery CTL perf in the last couple of weeks, I encourage you all to go try that command, Meshery CTL perf, and give your feedback to Piyush. There's a lot to it, and so yeah, go give it a try. Go complain to him about it, I guess. Yeah, it's Abhi was on a call. Abhi Kumar was on a call just a bit earlier, and so isn't on this call. But congrats to him for landing a full-time role here. That's great. It's entirely based on his contributions and engagement in the community. Abhi is wrapping up an LFX internship with Layer5 now, and so clearly that's been successful. Kudos to those guys. So speaking of LFX, speaking of CNCF things, so Meshery and the Service Mesh Performance Project, two of the projects that we spend quite a bit of time on. There's other projects in the community. Actually, there's a lot of projects in the community, but those two are prominent in part in so much as they were recently adopted by the CNCF. So there's a couple of talks about them at KubeCon China, which is just around the corner. One of the Layer5 meshmates, Anita iHuman, she's giving a talk there. She navigated her way through the double byte characters to get her talk accepted. So that's great. She'll talk about solving the service mesh adopter's dilemma. It's certainly one of the things that Meshery does. And so she'll introduce some folks to Meshery. We'll also have Meshery and Service Mesh Performance Project office hours at KubeCon China. We also run the CNCF Service Mesh working groups. We'll have a talk there. If speaking at a conference like either KubeCon or a different one is of interest to you all, we're always trying to help support people in talking about the projects, talking about their experience here. So there's a lot of requests that we receive to give talks at various meetups, various conferences, various podcasts. I just received 2 this morning, and for my part, I don't have time, but very much so like to connect any of you that are here with those opportunities. So go get busy, go learn something, go make an impact, and you'll probably get called on more than you care to be at some point for sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience. Good. Any questions about KubeCon before we go to the next topic? So KubeCon EU is next up after KubeCon China. Just for those that are curious about, we've a member of this community has spoken at every KubeCon there has been, if not once or many, many times over. And so we'll continue to. So we'll be talking at KubeCon EU as well. We'll have even more to share with folks there. one of the projects I'm going to jump ahead to the MeshMap beta sign up that needs a link, but we'll be no doubt talking about MeshMap as a plugin to Meshery at KubeCon EU. We'll probably announce the beta sign up with KubeCon China. So here very shortly. For those that are in the community and on the call, you're welcome to sign up now early and get on the waiting list. I do expect we'll have more people signing up than the team that's working on that can handle. Does anybody know how many individual users there have been of Meshery Cloud? So when you go to deploy Meshery and bring it up for the first time, you can sign in to a provider. You can choose the none provider, the local provider, or you can sign into Meshery Cloud as a remote provider. There's a little over 1,000 individuals who've signed up or who've used the Meshery Cloud. And then there's an unknown number of people who have used Meshery with the none provider, with a local provider. There's a lot. And we're speaking of 1,000. Some of you might have noticed that Meshery hit 1,000 stars this week. That's fantastic. We need to add another 0 behind that, and then we'll be really happy. It's pretty awesome. I remember, I don't know how many times we've talked about stars, kind of a funny thing because they don't really mean that much. We're already at 1,011. That's great. But even though they don't necessarily mean that much as a thing, as like a like, so much is, there are many different organizations or programs that will use stars as a measurement, as a metric, as a signal, as an indicator of project health, project momentum, project interest, that kind of a thing. It can be hard to track usage of open source projects. So more and more projects have a bit of telemetry or analytics built in to help track some of that. But sometimes it's hard to get feedback. Sometimes a user might try one of the projects, bump into an issue and then not report it. And actually the issue goes unknown, which is bad. That speaks to the importance of some things that Piyush in particular has done around testing. So unit testing has been a focus for Piyush. Also documenting the REST API for Meshery has been a focus. We have an ongoing focus. Every 2 weeks, there's a Meshery build and release meeting that talks about, or where we get into testing, integration testing, automated testing. One of the tools that we're using in that meeting is this tool called Cypress. And you can find it at cypress.io. And it is, it's a functional testing tool, meaning it helps it helps everyone that's contributing here to write end-to-end tests. Those tests are quite important so that we can, not have that bad experience that I was talking about, where a user might use your open source software, not report the bug, and you wouldn't know about it. So having those tests is very important. A couple of you are working on GitHub Actions at the moment to help overcome that and help automate that. So Ashish, have you been able to review Jubril's recent attempt to refactor us away from Bash?
Yeah, on the SMP action.
Yeah,
I saw that PR, but I was doing something else, so I postponed that, procrastinated that. So I would look into it by tonight.
Sounds good. Sounds good. But that effort in general, that's kind of another example of what I meant by the fact that there's a bunch of projects around here. That project has to deal with GitHub workflow, GitHub Actions. I think the community has 4 or 5 now published. So there's a lot going on. So even if you don't know Golang or React or Rust, there's lots of other automation to do, other scripting languages other JavaScript frameworks, tons of Markdown flying around. Anyway, I won't go through the list. There's a long list of like various roles and a contributor ladder in the community. I expect that by the time we meet next week, in terms of like contributor ladder, there's a community handbook that is in like final draft. It's out there on layer5.io. I don't know if there's a link to it yet. Does anybody know? It's a public link. Sorry, a publicly linked link. So
No,
by the way,
we don't have that right now. The PR is open, but yeah.
and was that Pranav, were you giving that update?
No, actually,
Oh.
I was just looking for the link.
Oh, nice. I forgot who I didn't see who just gave the update.
Yeah, me, that would be me, Yash.
Oh, Yash. Yeah, very good, Yash. Yep, nice. Yeah, so actually, Yash, do you want to like, so I'm digressing from the bullet points that we have here because some of you are new, so it's good to give you a general introduction. And for some of the rest of us, it's a good reminder of things that we have going on that we need to pay attention to and do. And actually for Yash, this might be a good opportunity to tell people about the handbook some and maybe point out areas where feedback is needed. So the responsive menu, some other areas. So Niven, did you mind navigating to where it says /community, and instead of newcomers, you would do handbook?
Yeah. And
Then Yash, take it away.
yeah, first of all, I'm adding a intra page navigation in just click on any of the callouts. I'm adding a intra page on the right side. There's a little issue on the Safari, just completing it. And I'm also adding call out to which link to the handbook in the community page and the newcomers page, and I think on learning paths also. Yeah, the PRs are open and really close to close. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll pop a link to those. Do you want to pop a link to the PRs that you have open in the chat and
Yeah,
others that are on?
yeah. Just a second.
All right, very good. Any initial comments from some of the topics that we just covered? Anybody have questions or comments on those things? Okay, just as I go to hand back the microphone, I'll say that, so there's a collection of engineers from HPE who are asking for kind of an intro to Meshry and an overview of what it would do. We need to get some time on the calendar or find a spot on the calendar to do that. We will likely either do that in the newcomers call on Thursday, which will be early for those Pacific. Sorry, Jared. No, we won't move it, although that's a good request. We might end up doing it in this community call next Friday, which will be a little bit later and easier for hopefully everyone to join. But we'll probably wait for some feedback from Yogi Porla was the HPE engineer who was asking. There's a number of HPE engineers in the Slack. HPE had acquired Cytail a little while ago. Cytail was a startup behind Spiffy and Spire. Spiffy and Spire have a prominent position or function in the cloud native ecosystem, but in service meshes in specific. If you're not familiar with Spiffy and Spire, Spiffy is a specification that deals with identity. Inspire is the canonical implementation of that identity specification. So every service mesh, part of what the value of a service mesh provides is unique identity and certificate handling for every service that's on the mesh. A unique identifier that can then be used to build authorization around, also mutual TLS, so bidirectional authentication and encryption between every service on a mesh. So Spiffy and Spire are broadly, pervasively used across service meshes. There's actually in the service mesh landscape on layer5.io/landscape, you'll find a list of all the service meshes that are using Spiffy and or Spire. And so because HPE had acquired Sightail, they continue to be stewards of those other CNCF projects, Spiffy and Spire, and they want to put in the time to help integrate Spiffy and Spire more or directly into Meshery as part of Meshery's architecture. And that's something for the maintainers on the call to give consideration to think about as to whether or not that's a good architectural addition. Come talk with me if I can help explain that a little bit more as to why that might make sense. So right here on this, if you stop right here and you go to, I don't know if it's non-functional or functional. Yeah, if you go to functional, go and you stop at the top. So at the top, do we have, is your screen? Okay, with Spiffy and Spire, if you go back to the categories, like I don't think that they're listed there. Okay, on functional. I mean, look, so this is bothersome if that's not jumping out. The HPE engineers had added that. Actually, they went around verifying compatibility. Huh, so I think we have a bug here. The landscape is, these check marks are controlled by some markdown documents. And it seems we're missing a column. All right. Does anybody want to look into this? Does anybody want to go chase down why we're not exposing Spiffy and Spire? If not, I might go do it and then show up the rest of you. I'll take the easy, issue. Any takers? Does anybody want to take this one? I'm opening the issue now. I'll wait an hour for anyone to pick it up, and if not, then I'll go do it. Cool. Okay, back to you, Navenda.
Yep. Thank you, Lee. Before we move on to the next topic, we also have another newcomer on the call. Deep Nantre, would you like to introduce yourself? Deep, like, yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Deep.
So hey guys, my name is Deep, and I'm in my final year of my BTech in computer science. And as I've recently started my journey in open source, I want to contribute in different projects, and I'm glad that I found Layer5. I hope that I'll learn a lot of new things in this community. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Deep. Thank you for introducing, and welcome to the Layer5 community. There are a lot of areas that you can contribute to, like as you explore all the different projects in the Layer5 that we do in the Layer5 community. I'm sure you will find areas that you find interesting and you can contribute to. All right. So moving on to the next topic, Ashish has a demo on displaying patterns validity on UI. So, yep.
Okay. So, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so we came up with this. You can go at this link, and we discussed this issue, I think, in the wasm filter meeting. So the small feature that we were going to add was that currently we do not. Okay, so this is the patterns UI, and currently we do not differentiate between the patterns that can be deployed and the ones that cannot be deployed. And the reason for not deploying, I'll go over them after I demo the thing. So I've added this column just for the demo purposes. This should not be taken as something that I'm proposing. I'm actually proposing something else. I'm proposing that the patterns that cannot be deployed should be grayed out or something. But so because I didn't want to go back and fro between the JSON, so I just added this field. So and the status and not supported can be misleading. So I will give a little bit of context to those who do not know about it. So Meshri has a concept of patterns. So you can basically deploy your service meshes as pattern files. And when Meshri server basically delegates the responsibility of the patterns to different components, like different adapters, or sometimes to itself. And for delegating that responsibility, the adapter should come up and register their components and register their capabilities, that yes, I'm able to handle this particular component, so that Meshri can figure out, okay, so if I get this pattern, I have some adapter, or I have something that has registered its capability to actually handle that pattern. And at the back end, we have a mechanism where we can actually dry run, and we can find out whether we can actually, whether there is an error in the particular, whether there is an error in the pattern file, error as in that whether the components that have been described, whether the things that have been described in the pattern file can they be, basically, are they registered in the database or not. For example, like if I have gateway.istio, so has Istio registered its capability to handle something known as gateway. So all of this is with Meshri server. So all I was proposing was that just before we send these patterns to the UI, we can lazily just this is just one line of code. We can lazily just add some metadata to the pages, and that metadata is two fields. First is that we can change the name, can support to. It is set to true if there is some error on the, basically if there are some error, those can be typos or something, or maybe there is no component that can handle that particular pattern. And along with this particular field, we also have the error messages. Like for example, if I talk about what's the name of this let me reload the page so that I'm sure that I'm looking at the latest JSON. Okay, so for example, I have this particular pattern file, and here the error messages says that, okay, so you don't have the containers values required, so you don't have this particular array set. So we can use this error message to actually have some kind of question mark type of thing around the patterns that we have grayed out, and the user can click on those and realize that, oh, I haven't added the containers field. So for example, that here this particular type is application. Application is a Meshri native component, so it should be supported, but it's why is it not supported, or why is it grayed out? So they'll figure out that, okay, I haven't added the containers field to it. So now if they'll just go back and add the, let's say I add the containers field, and when I update the pattern, it will reload, and it's taking time to reload, so it will reload and see now it says supported, so it can be non-grayed out or greened out for that matter. And for example, for another app example, I have not deployed the Istio adapter right now. That's why the Istio components are not supported. But if I when I deploy the Istio adapter, when I start the Istio adapter, the Istio adapter comes up and registers its capabilities with the Meshri server, that I can handle the components now. So when I'll reload the page now, the another pattern file that was not supported will be as you can see, it's supported now. So supported, not supported, we're not going to have these supported, not supported. What I was proposing, that we can have graying out of these components. Now the second part is, what do I mean by basically not supported? Not supported means one of these things. First, that either you have some kind of typo, Second is that there is no component that has registered its capabilities for that particular pattern file. Now, there is one caveat to this. The caveat is that the way this validation works is that you are not guaranteed, even after it says supported or it's not grayed out, you're not guaranteed that you'll deploy it and it will be deployed successfully, because the dry run is limited to 3 stages. It does not test whether you are actually, if you'll basically, if you'll deploy it, it will go successfully or not. So in future, what we can add is that in the process gRPC call that we make, we can add a dry run field to it. And whenever we load these patterns, we can add one more stage, and basically we can send that pattern file to that particular adapter which can support it. And that adapters, at the adapter side, we have either Helm chart type installations or manifest type installations. In both of these cases, we can dry run, and the adapter can actually send back the message that whether it will be able to deploy this particular pattern file or not. So this all the components, all the pattern files that will not be grayed out will actually, it'll actually mean that you can actually go ahead and deploy it, and the adapter will successfully deploy it. And if the adapter is down, it will also be reflected here that those things would be grayed out, because if the adapter is down, the gRPC call would fail. So that's kind of an extension over adding another stage to it. Up until this point, we can have 3 stages added to it, so that we can detect typo, and we can detect adapters, those adapters which have not registered their capability to support a pattern. So, and instead of these this particular column, we can gray out stuff. For the UI people, we just need to basically take care of this particular field. If this is set to false, we can gray out that thing, and we can have a question mark with this error message, for example, invalid workload type, so that user can click on the error message and can actually do something about it. So yeah, anyone has any feedback to it?
Yeah, by the way, as everyone digests this, if you couldn't tell, like the thing that Piyush is, I'm looking at Piyush's announcement, and sorry, the thing that Ashish is solving for here, there were a litany of considerations that he went through. And in my mind, they all boil down to 2 letters. Does anyone know what those 2 letters are? I'm not going to answer the question. Actually, you guys can all guess at what those 2 letters are in the chat. And if, whoever gets it right, I'm going to send we'll send you one of these shirts. All right. Any other feedback for Ashish?
And there is not a lot of code change that's required. So this is basically, in future, if you don't want that, we can just comment out this line. What I do is I'm doing it as Utkarsh suggested, completely lazily. So there is no change in database or anything. Just before sending that response, I unmarshal it, do all the modifications, take out the pattern file, do all the checks, and then marshal it back to then send it back. So yeah, there is not a lot of code change, just maybe 10 lines of code. So keep in mind.
Is that marshaling on marshaling for like the first 10, 20 or 25 records that are loaded? Is that are those done in Go routines? Are those done in parallel or sequentially?
Currently I'm doing it sequentially. Yeah, we can spin up Go routines for them, no problem there.
Okay. Yeah, and in part, like, educate me here, or educate the rest of us here. Like, is it true that one of the challenges that people will have with a Go routine is, like, in firing them all off, is that you're not necessarily the order in which the response, those individual routines complete, isn't necessarily easily under your control, and so you might figure out that the last record that you're displaying on the screen is the first one that you figure out the status of, whether it's deployable or not. And in this case, that sequencing or that ordering of operations, that doesn't matter, because you're just because you're just trying to show people as quickly as possible which patterns are deployable and which ones are not. Is that accurate, those set of statements?
Yeah.
Can you speak a little, you might have spoken to it, I might have missed it, but in terms of the dynamicism of the UI here, so the data that everyone sees, all of the Meshery users see in that form, this is a GraphQL subscription. So as those routines were to complete, the UI would just update based on the results, the results as they come through. Is that accurate?
When the user clicks on update pattern, two calls are made. First is to actually post the new pattern, and a subsequent call is made to refetch the all of these basically to refetch the entire pattern page, to refetch all the patterns. And when we'll refetch all the patterns, those dry runs would be made again. So yeah, that would be completely dynamic.
Nice. Refactoring the sorry, there's a service mesh evangelist that just followed the Meshery Twitter handle, which is, I've never seen that title before. A service mesh evangelist. That's fantastic. Also, it's kind of funny that the person who's saying that they're a service mesh evangelist doesn't treat service and mesh as two words, but one word, which we all know that those are two words. So funny. Random side note. Ashish, let me, if you don't mind, let me go back and ask, so rephrase, reposition that question and ask more in context of subscription, like real-time notifications over WebSockets that, or a WebSocket that those evaluations were performed. Right now, it sounds like all of those evaluations need to complete before before data is given to the UI. But is that the case?
Yes, that is the case.
Okay. Is that, do you know, is that user interface based on using GraphQL?
No, it's not.
Okay. Okay. All right. So there's another open area of need. So I'm not sure who's sharing the screen, but if we can go back to what Ashish was talking about. If we, Ashish, can you share again? Were you sharing before?
Yeah, I was sharing before. What exactly?
Oh, the patterns table.
Yeah, okay.
Meshery.
I can share again.
For context, as I make this next ask or suggest that if anyone is into React.js and JavaScript, there should be, you can reference, okay, so this UI needs to stop using REST and it needs to start using GraphQL. Meshery has two APIs, a REST-based API and a GraphQL-based API. Both of them are documented in Meshery docs. There should be, I don't remember, but there should be a GraphQL subscription for this data, patterns data, that this UI should be converted to use. So anyway, Ashish, this isn't exactly what you were looking to talk about or have feedback on, but since I don't have to send a sweatshirt to anyone today, I'll say that in part what I'm furthering the conversation on is the same thing that I think that you were more or less taking this initiative for, which is UX. This is about UX. This is the core of what Ashish was talking about from a number of different perspectives. Is like, how does a user who might have any number of patterns, service mesh patterns, that they want to deploy at the time at which they submit the request to deploy the pattern or to apply the pattern, how do we guarantee that will be a successfully applied change? Because the infrastructure underneath could be shifting while the user is looking at the UI. So wouldn't we want to let them know that a certain number of patterns, just they don't have any of the correct infrastructure to be able to do that anyway? So shouldn't we intimate to them somehow that they can look at the pattern, they can edit the pattern, but if they want to click apply, they're just going to get a failure back. So so don't even do that to start with. That's in part what he's going for. He's also going for the ability for users to look at a given pattern, see that it's supported, but also maybe before they actually apply it and affect, pervasive, broadly or impactfully affect their infrastructure, potentially in a negative way. Like maybe they're applying an anti-pattern and they didn't know it. It's supported, but they didn't know it was an anti-pattern, so they apply it and then they're screwed after that. They have to go undo that quickly. Well, maybe they want to dry run that before they do it. And this change here is a start to what someone would need for that type of dry run verification. So yeah, I mean, that's, so anybody else have feedback or comments? Hey, Jared, if I could quickly ask you so you're relative, so you've only been around the community for so long, you're still digesting the projects and all the things that are going on. And there's just, it's a big old fire hose. I wanted to ask, of part of the area, the aspects that intrigue you, is that more toward front end or back, more toward Golang or more toward React.js, or one area versus the next?
I would definitely say more towards Golang, kind of like that back end part.
Got it. Very good. Got it. Yeah, thanks for that. It's just good to have in the back of my mind and the other maintainers' minds as they're coming across issues and potentially looking for opportunities to get you hooked, find a foothold for you. So cool. Anybody else have feedback for Ashish? Does anyone have questions as to did it help that I droned on for another 8 minutes on that? Does everybody know what's trying to be accomplished there? Can anyone see why it's an imperfect solution? Ooh. Ashish, I just said it's, your implementation is so-so.
Yeah, that's a compliment.
Anybody know why it's imperfect? I mean, it's not a trick question, or I'm not trying to be mean, or actually trying to get everyone on the call engaged and learning something, kind of thinking through stuff. The smarter that you all are, the better the projects will be. The better the projects are, the smarter you will be. So, well, Ashish is facing this. Well, here, let me put it like this. So can we go back to Ashish's screen, please? Sorry to keep pulling us back. I think we have a little bit of time. Who all has placed an online order? Who all has had to rip the credit card out of their spouse's hands from placing an online order? Okay, it's just, all right. You ever place an online order and you get you get a confirmation email. It says, thanks for your order. We'll be shipping that shortly. I suspect you've gotten that. You might have gotten the one where it says, thank you kindly for your order. We will get to that when we actually have that in stock. Sorry, that's on back order. We're happy to take your money and hold that for you, though. Don't worry about it. it'll be sometime between now and next year that we'll have, refreshed the stock, and then we'll send it to you. Anybody gotten one kind of like that? Not quite as sarcastic as that, but there's no doubt that you have. So, well, was your response something like, again, not quite as sarcastic, it was like, what the hell? Like, it was like, hopefully your response was like, oh, okay, hey, that's reasonable. I get it. So either like, it was Black Friday. Jared was over there with his trigger finger. He got the deal before you did. And then, but they're going to get it backfilled after, like here's this challenge, like the same thing that Utkarsh is, or I apologize, that Ashish is dealing with is it's very much like, it's just an ordering system. It's, what it boils down to. So you can make the analogy to shopping. Like, hey, if they're out of order, like, why did you let me order the thing in the first place? Like, I wouldn't have sent in the money. Now I want a refund so I can go order it somewhere else to get it because I needed it for the birthday party tomorrow or whatever. Like, actually, if you make that a generic statement, a generic kind of a problem, it's about, it is, what's the right word? It's about resource reservations. It's about resources and availability and reservations. And this type of, like, we're just continuously, all of us that are working on software, working in one of like 10 different computer science paradigms, just in like the 10,000 different flavors of the same darn thing. It's like, there's a resource, there's a finite number of the resource, the number changes, and that's what this is. If you've ever received if you are on your wireless networks right now, you've got a dynamically assigned IP address, DHCP, IP address, address management, IPAM systems, DHCP has that built into a protocol that says, that goes through a series of very talkative communication that says, hey, router, where's the IP, where's the IPAM system, the IP address management system? Hey, it's over there. Here's the address to that. Great. Oh, turns out that's on a different subnet. Did you know that? We'll have to talk about DHCP if anybody knows how this works. But like, anyway, DHCP doesn't naturally cross subnet boundaries. So it's doesn't work with CIDR naturally. You have to have a router send along a helper, pass along an address. Anyway, you have to have a router help you get DHCP requests across domains. And so the point is, I won't take you through the whole sequence of what happens, but the point is, like, there's a finite number of IP addresses. You ever run out of them, you're sitting there on the network, you get this self-assigned 169 dot something something reserved address where you can just basically play with yourself. That only feels so good for so long, and then you want to play with others. And so you like resource reservation. Yeah, pardon my resource reservation only plays or is an important thing that you see all around, and you can, and that's what Ashish is trying to do. He's basically saying there could be any number of reasons. Right now, he's only addressing like really kind of one reason, but there could be any number of reasons why, if you click to apply that pattern, like we already know it's going to fail. So if we know that, we know that there might be a number of different reasons, to the extent that we can pre-qualify the request before someone submits it, great. Like if we know it's going to fail, why don't we just let people know that before they have a bad UX, those two letters. Okay, back to you, Navendi. Stuff to think about.
All right. Thank you, Ashish. So we have some areas where people can engage and where we need active participation to get things moving. And you can find links to these things in the meeting minutes. So to give a brief walkthrough, one of the areas that we are currently working on is on Get Nighthawk, which is basically Nighthawk the load generator. So we are working on adaptive load control in Meshery, so adding that feature. So this is one area that people can jump in and participate. So there, like there are some active works going around in this area. Another area is in Meshery CTL. So if you are more interested in Golang and the backend things, Meshery CTL is a good place to start contributing Golang. So Meshery CTL, so we have this ask is basically to improve errors in Meshery CTL. So to add contextual errors. So this basically boils down back to user experience improvements. So as users of CLI, we should get the users the proper user experience. So some work has been going around in this area to improve the errors that are thrown to the user, so that they are more contextual, and people can actually easily debug it, or uh, like go through the error code and find what the issue is. So there are a couple of open issues and pull requests that address this issue. So you can take a look into that and uh, like start contributing, like make more contributions around areas that still remain unfixed. And we also have another area in the Meshery UI. So Meshery UI is undergoing some restructuring, basically to add state management with Redux. So there is a separate feature branch in the Meshery repo called Meshery UI restructuring. So you can take a look into that branch, and there is a contribution guide in the README as well. So and there are a couple of open areas that you can take in and work on. And another area is on topics. So basically, this would revolve around creating content on the Layer5 website. And we have a channel in Slack called Block Kitchen. So if you are interested in writing content and technical writing and yeah, basically that sort of thing, you can jump in on the Block Kitchen channel in Slack, and we can help you. We can assign you some issues to some docs or some content to write, and you can take it up. All right. So all of these, the links to all of these is in the meeting minutes. So you feel free to check it out. All right. Moving on to our final topic of the day, Zain, is would you like to talk about your work on switching the community forms to the website? Zain, we can't hear you properly.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yep.
So, brief context before I start. So right now, the newcomers form is a Google form based one that a community is using.
Saying like your voice is breaking on and off.
Is it better now?
Not really. Like there is still some breaking. So while Sain fixes his microphone, maybe we can. Oh, Sain is back.
Is it fine now?
Yep, much better.
Okay. A brief context before I start, so that everyone is on the same page. So I'll share my screen. So as of now, our community is using a Google-based newcomers form, where the newcomers are asked to fill this form, and they get the access to our drives and other community resources. So we have been planning, and we are planning to shift to the website-based form, web-based form which is in our Layer5 website. So the discussion is gonna be about that, and the updates on that is this is done using an automated system. So as of now, the automated system is working pretty fine, and also the data is being updated to a Google form, as well as the mails are being sent, and the access is also being given to the newcomers. There's a small bit of work of integration from the current form to this web-based form remaining. Other than that, everything is working fine, and the tests are perfectly working well. Ali?
Nice. Well, then that's splendid. I think I lost my train of thought. Like, good. Most of you that are here have filled in the member form, and you filled in a Google form, and that's fine. It invokes the workflow, the action, the workflow automation, that the screenshot that's shared in the chat. It's a little more, it feels a little more classy to have a web-based form that's native to layer5.io to fill that in than it does to fill in a Google form. It's not a significant difference necessarily, but some members in the community, a number of members in the community worked on converting from the Google form to this other web-based form. And when you click submit to join the community, you get access to resources in the community. So you get on a mailing list, you get access to the Google Drive that has lots of project assets and design specs and lots of things. And some other things happen. You get sent messages about resources and what to do next and some steps. And hopefully anyone who's joined recently, like when you join the Slack as well, you'll get a private message that says, here's like 2 months worth of things to go look at, or at least a couple of weeks of things. And so that automation is what's being shared, and Zane is just improving that. So Zane, it sounds like you're ready for review. Good. That's great. Sounds like we can cut away from there is one thing to be done, like when that Google form is sunset, the simple URL that we're using to reference it, it's layer5.io/newcomer as a singular noun. And in a nuanced way, the web-based form, this one, it's at newcomers. So we might want to think about updating that other older reference. And we might want to think about the structure that we're using here, in terms of URLs, but so cool. Anybody have questions about this or comments, or did anyone go through this process recently and think you got too many emails? There wasn't enough information. You were inundated with information. You were wondering, why do you want to know my shirt size?
No, actually, I just signed up. I just signed up for this today, and it was fine, I guess. Like, I wasn't bombarded with emails or anything, and I got the Slack notification as well. So I think it was fine.
Did you end up with access to the community drive?
No, I didn't. The new community member on Slack or on the website?
On the Google form, that second tab. This. Did you fill this one in?
Yeah, I filled this one in as well.
Okay. Did you use an email address that is associated to a Google account?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you should find, I don't know, if you go to drive. You should have gotten an email about this, but if you go to drive.google.com, you should have a new,
Let me just check.
a new drive. We really need a swag store. Like we really need that. Okay. Anyway, so swags. Who else says swag? Just word of advice. Just don't enunciate it like that in front of my wife. She'll just.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Hold
I
you in
got in your
disdain.
drive.
You got your drive. You got it. Perfect.
Yeah.
And for as much as I like listening to myself, the echo is pretty horrific. Anyway, Nivendu, that's all from me. Do we have anything else?
Nope. That was all the topics we had today. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, there are other open areas that you can jump in and participate. So do check that out. And I'll see you guys next week, and have a happy weekend. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Guys.
Bye.
Bye.